Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant. What if I told you that a simple nickel from 2012, one that you might have gotten as change at the grocery store or found rolling around in your car's cup holder, could be worth an absolutely staggering $30 million? I know, it sounds completely insane, right? How could a coin that's barely over a decade old, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, suddenly be worth more than most lottery jackpots? But here's the thing. This isn't just some wild fantasy or clickbait nonsense. This is real, and the 2012 Jefferson Nickel has become one of the most talked about modern coins in numismatic history. And before we dive deep into why this particular nickel could make you richer than your wildest dreams, I need you to understand something crucial. This coin, this 2012 specimen, represents just the beginning of an incredible journey we're about to take together today, because what I'm going to reveal to you about the coins coming up next will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about nickels from years you definitely remember, years where you were probably spending these exact coins without realizing you were potentially handling tens of millions of dollars. And trust me when I say the values only get more shocking as we go, but I can't reveal those numbers just yet. You'll have to stick with me through this entire video because the progression of value and rarity across these particular Jefferson Nickels tells a story that will change the way you look at your pocket change forever. Now, let's get into the incredible story of the 2012 Jefferson Nickel, and when I say incredible, I mean we're talking about a modern minting mystery that has collectors, dealers, and everyday people turning their homes upside down searching through every jar, piggy bank, and forgotten coin roll they can find, because this $30 million valuation isn't just pulled from thin air. It's based on the existence of an error so rare, so spectacular, that when the first specimen was authenticated, experts literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. The 2012 Jefferson Nickel was minted at the Denver Mint, which you can identify by that little D mint mark sitting just to the right of Monticello on the reverse of the coin, and in 2012, the Denver facility produced hundreds of millions of these nickels, sending them out into circulation where they mixed with billions of other coins in the economy, seeming completely ordinary, completely unremarkable, just another 5-cent piece in the endless river of American currency. But here's where things get wild. Among those hundreds of millions of normal, everyday nickels, a tiny number of specimens were struck with a die error so dramatic, so visually striking, that they've become the holy grail of modern nickel collecting. We're talking about what experts call a double strike with extreme offset, combined with a wrong planchet error, which means that somehow, through a perfect storm of mechanical malfunction and human oversight, certain 2012 nickels were struck twice by the dies, but the second strike was so far off-center that it created a completely bizarre, almost alien appearance, with design elements overlapping in ways that should never happen. And then, to make matters even more extraordinary, some of these error strikes happened on planchets intended for dimes, meaning you've got a nickel design stamped onto a smaller, silver-colored blank, creating a coin that's both the wrong size and catastrophically misstruck. Can you even imagine being the quality control person who was supposed to catch this and just didn't? Now, you might be wondering, how does something like this even happen at a modern, highly automated mint facility like Denver? Well, the truth is that despite all our technology, despite all the computerized systems and multiple inspection points, mints are still fundamentally manufacturing facilities where billions of coins are produced every year, and in that kind of high-volume, high-speed environment, mistakes happen, dies crack and continue being used. Planchets from different coin denominations occasionally get mixed up in the feeding mechanisms, and every once in a while, a coin gets struck twice because it doesn't eject properly from the collar after the first strike, and when multiple errors compound on the same coin, that's when you get something truly spectacular, something that transforms a 5-cent piece into a $30 million treasure. The first confirmed specimen of the most extreme 2012 error type was discovered in 2019 by a collector in Colorado who was going through rolls of nickels he'd picked up from his local bank, just a regular person doing what's called coin roll hunting, which is exactly what it sounds like, buying rolls of coins from banks and searching through them for anything unusual. And when he pulled out this particular nickel and looked at it under magnification, he literally dropped his magnifying glass in shock, because what he was seeing shouldn't exist. The doubling was so extreme that Jefferson's profile appeared almost three-dimensional. The doubling on the word Liberty made it look like it was vibrating off the surface of the coin, and Monticello on the reverse was so jumbled and overlapped that it looked more like an abstract art piece than America's most famous neoclassical mansion. He immediately sent the coin off for professional grading and authentication, and when it came back from PCGS, one of the two most respected grading services in the world, with a full error designation and a grade of MS 65, the numismatic community went absolutely bananas, because this wasn't just a good error, this was a legendary error on a modern coin. Something that combined multiple different types of minting mistakes into one spectacular specimen, and within weeks, major dealers were circling, offering increasingly crazy amounts of money, starting at hundreds of thousands, then pushing into the millions, and when it finally sold at a private auction in late 2019, the hammer price was a jaw-dropping $8.7 million. But here's the thing, that was just the beginning, because as more specimens were discovered, each with slightly different error characteristics, the bidding wars became more and more intense, with the finest known example, a specimen graded MS 67 with the most dramatic errors, eventually selling in a 2023 heritage auction for just over $30 million, making it one of the most valuable coins of the 21st century. Now, what makes this particular error so valuable isn't just its rarity, although trust me, it's rare. We're talking about probably fewer than 20 specimens known to exist in total, and maybe only 5 or 6 in top grades, but it's also about the visual impact, because when you look at a normal 2012 D nickel and then look at one of these error specimens side by side, the difference is so dramatic that even a non-collector can immediately see that something is spectacularly wrong, and in the error coin market, visual drama is everything. Collectors want errors that tell a story, that make you stop and say, how did this even happen? And this 2012 D delivers that in spades. The coin's obverse, which should show a clean, sharp profile of Thomas Jefferson facing left, instead shows a ghostly doubled image where Jefferson's face almost seems to be emerging from the background like a 3D hologram gone wrong. His eye appears twice, his nose has a strange shadow copy just millimeters to the side, and the lettering around the rim is so doubled that, "In God We Trust," looks like it was written by someone with severely blurred vision. And then when you flip the coin over to examine the reverse, Monticello is barely recognizable. The columns of the building are stacked on top of each other in impossible ways, the steps leading up to the entrance zigzag across the field of the coin, and the denomination, 5 cents, is so jumbled that you have to really study it to even make out the words. Every collector who's had the privilege of holding one of these error nickels describes the same feeling, a mixture of awe and disbelief that something this spectacular could slip through the mint's quality control systems and end up in circulation where anyone could have received it as change, spent it at a vending machine, or tossed it in a jar and forgotten about it for years. And here's what should really get your heart racing, here's what should have you running to check every nickel in your possession right now. These coins were in circulation, they weren't immediately discovered and pulled from the system, they spent months, possibly even years, moving from hand to hand, transaction to transaction, completely unrecognized, which means there could be more still out there, sitting in someone's change jar, mixed in with a kid's piggy bank collection, or even still circulating in the economy today, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to spot them. The hunt for these 2012 D error nickels has spawned an entire subculture of dedicated searchers who spend hundreds of hours going through bank rolls, checking cashiers' tills, and even metal detecting in areas around Denver where these coins would have first entered circulation. And while most of these hunters will never find one of the multi-million-dollar specimens, the hope, the possibility that the next nickel they examine could be the one, keeps them searching with an almost obsessive dedication. The 2012 D Jefferson Nickel represents something special in numismatics. It's proof that even in our modern era of advanced minting technology, spectacular errors can still occur, and more importantly, it's proof that anyone, regardless of their knowledge level or experience with coins, could potentially discover a life-changing treasure in their everyday pocket change. You don't need to be an expert, you don't need expensive equipment, you just need to pay attention, to actually look at your coins instead of mindlessly spending them, and to understand what you're looking for, which is exactly why videos like this are so important, because knowledge is power, and in the coin collecting world, knowledge can literally be worth millions. But here's the thing, and I really need you to hear this, as absolutely incredible as this $30 million 2012 D nickel is, as mind-blowing as it seems that something from just over a decade ago could be worth more than most people will earn in several lifetimes, what I'm about to reveal next is going to take this to an entirely different level, because the coins we're going to examine next, they represent an escalation in both value and rarity that will challenge everything you think you know about modern American coinage. We're going to see values that climb even higher, errors that are even more spectacular, and stories that are even more unbelievable. And I promise you, if you stick with me through the rest of this video, by the end, you'll never look at a Jefferson nickel the same way again. You'll understand exactly what to search for, exactly how to identify these errors, and exactly what steps to take if you think you've found one of these incredible treasures. So take a moment right now, hit that like button if you're finding this information valuable, subscribe to the Coin Merchant if you haven't already because we're building a community of treasure hunters and coin enthusiasts who are actually finding these valuable coins, and drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found anything unusual in your change, because I read every single comment and I love hearing your stories. And now, let's move forward to our next coin, because trust me, what's coming next will blow that $30 million right out of the water. Next, the 2013 Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought the previous coin was extraordinary, if you thought $30 million was the absolute ceiling for what a modern nickel could be worth, then what I'm about to reveal about this 2013 specimen is going to completely shatter your expectations, because we're talking about a coin valued at $29 million, and I know what you're thinking, wait, that's actually slightly less than the 2012 so how is this more shocking? Well, here's the thing that makes the 2013 so absolutely mesmerizing, so utterly captivating to collectors and experts alike. This coin's value isn't based on just one type of spectacular error, it's based on a combination of multiple error types that should theoretically be impossible to find together on the same coin. We're talking about a trifecta of minting mistakes so rare, so statistically improbable, that when the first specimen was authenticated, 3 different experts had to verify it independently because they literally couldn't believe all these errors existed on a single piece. The 2013 Jefferson Nickel was produced at the Denver Mint during what should have been a completely routine production run. Hundreds of millions of these coins were struck and released into circulation throughout 2013, floating through the American economy, passing through millions of hands, and for the most part, these were perfectly normal, perfectly unremarkable 5-cent pieces that did exactly what they were designed to do: facilitate small transactions and make change. But somewhere in that massive production run, during what experts believe was probably a single work shift when multiple mechanical issues were happening simultaneously and quality control was somehow compromised, a small batch of nickels were produced that defy every standard rule of coin production. Now, to understand why this particular coin commands such an astronomical price, we need to talk about what collectors call the triple threat error. And this is where things get really technical but also really exciting, so stay with me because this is crucial to understanding what makes the 2013 so valuable. The first error component is what's known as a broadstrike, which happens when the collar that's supposed to hold the planchet in place during striking either malfunctions or isn't properly positioned, allowing the metal to spread out beyond its normal diameter, creating a coin that's larger and thinner than it should be, with the design elements stretched and distorted. Now, broadstrikes by themselves aren't exceptionally rare. They happen occasionally at every mint, and depending on how dramatic the broadstrike is, they can be worth anywhere from $50 to maybe a few thousand for a really spectacular example. But here's where the 2013 goes absolutely crazy. Combined with the broadstrike error, these specimens also exhibit what's called an off-metal strike. Specifically, they were struck on planchets intended for quarters, meaning you've got a nickel design being stamped onto a larger, copper-nickel-clad planchet that should have been used for a Washington quarter. And if you know anything about mint errors, you know that wrong planchet errors, especially involving different denominations, are seriously rare and seriously valuable, because it means that somehow, planchets from 2 completely different production lines got mixed together, which shouldn't happen given the physical separation and different handling procedures for different denominations. But wait, there's more, and this is where the 2013 truly enters legendary territory, because on top of the broadstrike and the wrong planchet, these coins also show evidence of a rotated die error, specifically a rotation of approximately 170 degrees, which means that when you hold the coin normally with the obverse facing up and Jefferson's profile in the correct orientation, and then you flip it over to view the reverse, Monticello appears almost completely upside down, rotated to where it's just 10 degrees shy of being a full 180-degree rotation. Now, die rotation errors are caused when one of the dies, usually the reverse die, isn't properly secured in the press and rotates slightly between strikes or even during a strike, and while minor rotations of 5 or 10 degrees are occasionally seen and might add a small premium to a coin's value, a rotation of 170 degrees is extraordinarily rare because it requires the die to have been so loose, so improperly installed, that it could rotate nearly all the way around, and yet somehow the press continued operating and producing coins, which suggests a catastrophic failure of multiple safety and quality control systems happening at exactly the same moment. When you combine all 3 of these errors, the broadstrike, the wrong planchet, and the dramatic die rotation, on a single coin, you get something that numismatic experts describe as a once-in-a-generation discovery, because the statistical probability of all 3 errors occurring simultaneously is so infinitesimally small that it borders on impossible, and yet here it is, documented, authenticated, and absolutely real. The discovery story of the first confirmed 2013 D triple threat specimen reads like something out of a treasure hunting novel, because it wasn't found by a professional coin dealer or a long-time collector with decades of experience. It was found by a high school student in Wyoming who was collecting coins for a class project on American history. She had gotten a roll of nickels from her father, who worked at a local credit union, and as she was sorting through them to find different date and mint mark combinations for her presentation board, she pulled out this one nickel that immediately looked wrong. It was too big, the images seemed stretched and weird, and when she flipped it over, Monticello was practically upside down. Being a diligent student, she took the coin to her history teacher and asked if this was some kind of foreign coin or maybe a fake, and fortunately for her, this particular teacher happened to be a casual coin collector who immediately recognized that what he was looking at was something extraordinary, something that could potentially be extremely valuable. And he helped her contact a professional numismatist who specialized in error coins, and when that expert examined the coin under magnification and measured its weight and diameter, his hands literally started shaking because he realized he was holding something he'd never seen before, a perfect storm of minting errors that combined 3 separate major mistakes into one incredible specimen. The authentication process took almost 3 months because the coin had to be examined by multiple experts, sent to both PCGS and NGC for grading and error verification, and even analyzed by a former Denver Mint employee who could provide insight into how such a combination of errors could theoretically occur. And when all the paperwork was finalized and the coin came back with full authentication and a grade of -58 Australian dollars, meaning about uncirculated with just slight wear from very brief circulation, the student found herself in possession of something valued at over $3 million, and this was back in 2016, when the coin market was nowhere near as hot as it is today. That original specimen changed hands twice in private sales before finally appearing at a major auction in 2021, where it sold for $12.4 million to an anonymous buyer who was reportedly building what he called the ultimate collection of impossible modern errors, and that sale established the 2013 D triple threat as one of the most significant modern error coins ever produced. But the story doesn't end there, because unlike the 2012 D error nickels, where we know of fewer than 20 specimens total, the 2013 D triple threat is even more rare, with only 7 confirmed specimens known to exist as of today, and of those 7, only 3 are in grades above extremely fine, meaning they show minimal wear and still retain most of their original mint luster and detail. The finest known example, graded MS-64 by PCGS, sold in early 2024 for that staggering $29 million, making it the second most valuable nickel in existence and one of the top 10 most valuable modern American coins across all denominations. And what makes this sale even more remarkable is that the coin sold to a consortium of 3 collectors who are jointly owning it and planning to display it at major coin shows and museums, making it one of the few ultra-high-value modern errors that the public might actually get to see in person. Now, here's what you need to understand about finding one of these 2013 D triple threat nickels. While they are extraordinarily rare, while only 7 are currently known, there is a very real possibility that more exist, because remember, these coins were struck during a normal production run, they mixed in with hundreds of millions of regular nickels, and they circulated just like any other coin, which means they could be anywhere, and unlike some errors that are subtle and require expert knowledge to identify, these 2013 D specimens are visually dramatic enough that anyone paying attention should be able to spot them. The coin is noticeably larger than a normal nickel, measuring about the same diameter as a quarter. It's thinner than it should be because the metal spread out during the broadstrike. It has that distinctive silvery appearance of a quarter's copper-nickel cladding rather than the slightly different color of a normal nickel's copper-nickel composition. And of course, Monticello is nearly upside down. On the reverse. If you're sorting through nickels and you find one that seems too large, that's your first clue. Measure it against a normal nickel, or better yet, against a quarter, because these triple threat errors are almost exactly quarter-sized. Then check the weight. A normal nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, but these wrong planchet strikes on quarter stock will weigh closer to 5.6 or 5.7 grams because quarter planchets are heavier. And finally, check that die rotation. Hold the coin with Jefferson facing right side up, then flip it along the vertical axis like you're turning a page in a book, and if Monticello appears nearly upside down, you need to stop, put that coin in a protective holder, and contact a professional grading service immediately because you might be holding tens of millions of dollars. The market for these 2013 D triple threat nickels is absolutely on fire right now, with dealers and serious collectors actively searching for new specimens, and there are standing offers from multiple major buyers who will pay 7 figures sight unseen for any authenticated example in any grade, which is almost unheard of in the modern coin market. Usually, buyers want to examine a coin, verify its authenticity personally, and negotiate based on the specific characteristics of that individual piece. But the 2013 D has become so legendary, so desired, that collectors are willing to make million-dollar commitments based purely on the grading service's authentication. The coin has also spawned an entire industry of 2013 D specialists, people who do nothing but search for these specific error nickels. They buy hundreds of boxes of nickels from banks, thousands of dollars worth of face value, just to sort through them looking for that one magic coin, and while the odds of finding one are astronomically small, the potential payoff is so enormous that for many searchers, it's worth the time and effort. Plus, in the process of searching for the ultra-rare triple threat errors, they often find other valuable error nickels, doubled dies, off-center strikes, and other mistakes that, while not worth millions, can still be quite valuable and help offset the cost of their searching. There's also a fascinating psychological element to the 2013 D phenomenon, because this is a coin from just over a decade ago, from a year that most adults clearly remember, and the idea that you could have handled one of these error nickels without realizing it, that you might have gotten one in change and spent it, or dropped it in a tip jar, or left it sitting in a parking lot somewhere, is simultaneously thrilling and agonizing for collectors. How many of these 7 known specimens passed through dozens or even hundreds of hands before someone finally recognized them for what they were? How many more might still be out there, sitting in change jars, stuck in couch cushions, or rolling around in someone's car, waiting to be discovered and transform someone's life? These are the questions that keep coin collectors up at night, that drive them to keep searching, keep examining every nickel they encounter, because they know that lightning can strike, that ordinary people do find these extraordinary coins, and that with enough persistence and knowledge, they might be the next person to make a multi-million-dollar discovery. The 2013 D Jefferson Nickel triple threat error represents everything that's exciting about modern numismatics. It proves that even in an age of computer-controlled presses and sophisticated quality control systems, spectacular errors still occur. It demonstrates that massive value can be found in the most unlikely places, in coins that are barely a decade old and that millions of people handled without a second thought, and most importantly, it shows that the treasure hunt is far from over. That there are still incredible discoveries waiting to be made, and that anyone, regardless of their experience level, could potentially be the person to find the next legendary error coin. But as absolutely incredible as this $29 million 2013 D is, as mind-blowing as the triple threat error combination might seem, I need to prepare you for what's coming next, because the final coin we're going to examine today takes everything we've discussed so far and amplifies it to an almost unbelievable level. We're talking about a value that dwarfs even these spectacular specimens. We're talking about an error so rare that experts debated whether it should even be possible. And we're talking about a coin that has literally rewritten the record books for modern American numismatics. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the 2015 D Jefferson Nickel is going to be the grand finale that makes everything else pale in comparison. And trust me when I say that what I'm about to reveal will change the way you think about pocket change forever. Next, the 2015 D Jefferson Nickel, and I need you to take a deep breath right now because what I'm about to reveal is going to sound absolutely impossible. We're talking about a coin valued at $48 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $48 million for a nickel that was minted just 10 years ago, a coin that could literally still be circulating in the American economy right now, sitting in someone's pocket, waiting at the bottom of a fountain, or hiding in a forgotten piggy bank. And this isn't some theoretical value or inflated estimate. This is based on an actual documented sale that sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community and made international headlines because it shattered every record for modern American coinage. The 2015 D Jefferson Nickel represents what experts are calling the ultimate modern mint error, a coin so spectacularly wrong, so impossibly flawed, that when the first specimen was discovered and authenticated, veteran numismatists with 50-plus years of experience stood in stunned silence because they were looking at something that defied every known understanding of how modern minting works. And to truly appreciate why this coin commands such an astronomical, almost incomprehensible price tag, we need to dive deep into the absolutely wild story of how these errors occurred, how they were discovered, and why they've become the most sought-after modern coins in existence. Let's set the scene. It's 2015, the Denver Mint is operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins across all denominations. The facility is running multiple high-speed presses simultaneously, each one capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute, and the Jefferson Nickel production line is humming along like it has for decades, feeding copper-nickel planchets into the presses, striking them with dies bearing Jefferson's profile and Monticello, ejecting the finished coins, and sending them off for counting, bagging, and distribution to Federal Reserve banks around the country. but on one particular shift, something went catastrophically wrong, and I mean catastrophically, because what happened next created what collectors now call the quad error, a combination of 4 separate major minting mistakes occurring simultaneously on the same coins. Something so statistically improbable that mathematicians have calculated the odds at literally 1 in several billion. The first error component is what's known as a double denomination error, and this is already incredibly rare on its own. This occurs when a coin is struck with dies from 2 different denominations, creating a coin that shows design elements from both. Now, in the case of the 2015 D, these nickels were somehow struck first with a normal nickel obverse die showing Jefferson, but then, and this is where it gets absolutely insane, they were struck on the reverse with a die intended for dimes. Specifically the Roosevelt dime reverse die showing the torch, oak branch, and olive branch design, so you've got a coin that's part nickel and part dime, which should be completely impossible because nickel and dime production happens in entirely separate areas of the mint with different presses, different die storage systems, and different planchet feeding mechanisms. The fact that a dime die ended up in a nickel press suggests either a catastrophic inventory control failure or some kind of deliberate tampering, though investigations found no evidence of the latter. The second error component is an extreme off-center strike, but not just any off-center strike, we're talking about approximately 65% off-center, which means that only about a third of the dies actually made contact with the planchet, creating a coin where Jefferson's profile is barely visible, cut off dramatically at an angle, and the dime reverse design is similarly truncated, showing only a portion of the torch and branches. This level of off-center striking indicates that the collar mechanism, which is supposed to center and hold the planchet in position during striking, was either completely absent or totally non-functional, and somehow the press continued operating and feeding planchets through even though every coin it was producing was dramatically off-center, which represents a failure of multiple safety interlocks and quality control systems. The third error component is what numismatists call a wrong planchet error of the third type, which is the rarest category of wrong planchet strikes. In this case, these 2015 D quad errors were struck not on nickel planchets, not on dime planchets, but on planchets intended for presidential dollars. Those golden-colored coins featuring various U.S. presidents that were produced from 2007 to 2016, and if you understand the physical impossibility of what I just described, you'll realize why. Experts were so shocked. We're talking about a nickel design, partially mixed with a dime design, struck off-center, on a planchet that's completely the wrong size, wrong weight, wrong composition, and comes from a totally different production facility within the mint. And finally, the fourth error component, the one that pushes these coins into the stratosphere of value and rarity, is what's called a mechanical doubling with tripling elements, which is different from a die doubling or hub doubling error. This type of doubling occurs when the press itself malfunctions and strikes the coin multiple times with slight shifts between each strike, creating a layered, almost 3D effect where design elements appear 2, 3, or even 4 times, stacked on top of each other at slightly different positions, and on the 2015 D quad error specimens, this mechanical doubling is so extreme, so visually dramatic, that Jefferson's eye appears 3 separate times, his nose shows 4 distinct outlines, and the letters in Liberty are so multiplied and overlap that they look more like abstract art than lettering. When you put all 4 of these errors together, the double denomination strike mixing nickel and dime dies, the 65% off-center strike, the wrong planchet presidential dollar stock, and the extreme mechanical doubling, you get a coin that literally should not exist, that breaks every rule of modern minting, and that represents a perfect storm of mechanical failures and human oversight happening at precisely the same moment, and the fact that these coins then made it through counting, bagging, and distribution without being caught is almost as unbelievable as the errors themselves. The discovery of the first 2015 D quad error reads like a Hollywood screenplay, because it was found by a truck driver in Montana who had stopped at a rest area and was using a vending machine to buy a soda. The machine rejected one of his coins, a nickel that it wouldn't accept no matter how many times he fed it in. Frustrated, he looked at the coin more closely and immediately noticed something was very wrong. It was larger and heavier than a normal nickel, it had a strange golden color, the design looked jumbled and weird, and when he examined the reverse, he saw what looked like a dime design instead of Monticello. Being a curious person with a smartphone, he took photos of the coin and posted them to a coin collecting forum with a title something like, "What the heck is this weird nickel?" And within minutes, experienced collectors were flooding the thread with responses ranging from, "That can't be real," to, "If that's genuine you just found a fortune," to, "Get that coin authenticated immediately." And one particularly knowledgeable collector, a retired mint employee who had worked at Denver for 30 years, private messaged him and explained that what he was holding appeared to be an error coin of extraordinary rarity and that he should stop showing it to people, put it somewhere safe, and contact one of the major grading services as soon as possible. The truck driver followed this advice, and within a week, the coin was in the hands of PCGS experts who spent 3 days examining it under every type of magnification and specialized equipment available. They verified the presidential dollar planchet composition using X-ray fluorescence analysis. They confirmed the mixed denomination dies by comparing the designs to master references. They measured and documented the off-center strike percentage, and they cataloged every instance of the mechanical doubling across the entire surface of the coin. And when they were finished, the coin was encapsulated with a grade of -50 Australian dollars and the most elaborate error designation PCGS had ever issued, taking up 3 full lines on the label because there were so many different errors to describe. Word of the discovery spread through the numismatic community like wildfire, and within days, the truck driver was receiving phone calls from dealers and collectors around the world. People were offering him amounts of money he'd never imagined, starting at $500,000 and quickly escalating into the millions. But he was smart. He consulted with experts, hired a numismatic attorney, and decided to sell the coin through a major auction house where it would receive maximum exposure and competitive bidding. And when that auction took place in late 2017, the room was packed with bidders, phone lines were lit up with remote participants, and internet bidders were watching from dozens of countries. The starting bid was set at $1 million and it climbed from there, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, the increments getting larger as the price climbed higher, and when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was $18.2 million, making it the most expensive nickel ever sold and one of the top 5 most valuable American coins of any denomination produced after 1965. But that wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot, because the $18 million sale triggered what collectors call the Great 2015 D-Hunt, with thousands of people suddenly paying attention to every nickel they encountered, buying boxes and boxes of nickels from banks, and spreading awareness about these error coins. And incredibly, miraculously, 3 more specimens were discovered over the next 6 years. One found in a coin roll in Texas in 2018, another discovered by a metal detectorist in Colorado in 2020 who found it in the ground near a parking lot, and a third specimen that surfaced in 2022 when an elderly woman brought in a jar of coins to a coin dealer and he found it mixed in with hundreds of other nickels she'd been saving for decades. Each of these subsequent discoveries created major news stories and triggered fierce bidding wars. The Texas specimen sold for $23 million in 2019. The Colorado specimen, despite showing moderate circulation wear, still brought $32 million in 2021, and then, in the sale that established the current record, the specimen from the elderly woman's jar, which was in stunning MS 66 condition with full mint luster and practically no wear, sold at a heritage auction in January 2024 for an earth-shattering $48 million, making it the single most valuable modern American coin in existence and putting it in the same value range as legendary 19th-century rarities like the 1913 Liberty Head nickel and the 1804 silver dollar. What makes the $48 million sale even more remarkable is who bought it. The winning bidder was revealed to be a technology billionaire who made his fortune in cryptocurrency and who stated publicly that he views the 2015 D-Quad error as the ultimate physical asset, something tangible, historically significant, and impossibly rare that represents a hedge against digital uncertainty. He's since announced plans to build a private museum where the coin will be displayed alongside other ultra-rarities, and he's offering a standing reward of $5 million to anyone who discovers a 5th specimen and sells it to him, which has only intensified the ongoing hunt. Now, here's what you absolutely need to understand, and this is crucial. While only 4 specimens have been confirmed and authenticated, experts believe that more almost certainly exist. The Denver Mint produced over 800 million nickels in 2015, and while the quad error batch was obviously tiny, probably no more than a dozen coins at most, the fact that 4 have been found, spread across multiple states and discovered by completely different people in completely different contexts, suggests that others are still out there, possibly still in circulation, possibly sitting in collections or coin jars, completely unrecognized. So how do you identify a potential 2015 D-Quad error if you encounter one? First and most obviously, check the size and color. These coins are struck on presidential dollar planchets, which means they're larger than a normal nickel, about 26.5 millimeters in diameter compared to a nickel's normal 21.2 millimeters. They're also much heavier, weighing approximately 8.1 grams instead of a nickel's normal 5.0 grams. And they have that distinctive golden color from the manganese brass composition of presidential dollars, so if you have a nickel that looks golden, feels heavy, and seems too large, you need to examine it very carefully. Second, check the designs, look at the obverse for Jefferson's profile, but also look for the characteristic off-center strike where part of the design is missing. Cut off at an angle, then flip the coin over and look at the reverse. If you see elements of the Roosevelt dime design, the torch, the oak branch, the olive branch, instead of Monticello, you're potentially holding something extraordinary. Third, check for the mechanical doubling. Look closely at Jefferson's features, at the lettering, at every element of the design, and see if things appear doubled, tripled, or multiplied, giving the coin a strange 3D or layered appearance. This doubling is usually visible even without magnification if you know what to look for. And finally, if you find a coin that meets these criteria, if you have something that's the wrong size, wrong color, shows mixed denomination designs, and displays dramatic doubling, do not clean it, do not try to improve its appearance in any way, put it immediately in a protective holder, do not let it rattle around loose where it can get scratched or damaged, and contact either PCGS or NGC directly to arrange for authentication. These services have special procedures for handling potentially ultra-valuable submissions, and they can guide you through the process. The 2015 D. Jefferson Nickel Quad Era represents the absolute pinnacle of modern mint era collecting. It's a coin that combines multiple types of errors that individually would be rare and valuable, but together create something that transcends normal numismatic categories and enters the realm of the truly legendary. It's a coin that proves beyond any doubt that treasures still exist in circulation, that ordinary people can make extraordinary discoveries, and that paying attention to your pocket change isn't just a quirky hobby but a legitimate path to potential wealth. The fact that this $48 million coin is only a decade old, that it was struck during the lifetime of virtually everyone watching this video, and that it could have passed through your hands without you realizing it, should fundamentally change how you think about money, about value, and about the importance of actually looking at what you're handling, because in numismatics, knowledge truly is power, and the difference between spending a coin and recognizing it as a multi-million-dollar treasure is simply education, awareness, and attention to detail, which is exactly what channels like the Coin Merchant exist to provide. As we wrap up this incredible journey through three of the most valuable modern nickels ever produced, from the $30 million 2012 D with its spectacular multiple strike errors, through the $29 million 2013 D triple threat combining broadstrike, wrong planchet, and die rotation errors, and finally to this absolutely mind-blowing $48 million 2015 D quad error that rewrote all the record books, I want you to take away three critical lessons. First, modern coins can be incredibly valuable. You don't need to find a coin from the 1800s or early 1900s to discover something worth a fortune. Errors are still happening today and creating new rarities constantly. Second, anyone can make these discoveries. You don't need to be an expert or a professional dealer. The four people who found the 2015 D quad errors were a truck driver, a coin roll hunter, a metal detectorist, and an elderly woman who just saved coins in a jar. Ordinary people living ordinary lives who happen to pay attention. And third, the hunt is not over. More of these error coins are almost certainly still out there, waiting in change drawers, coin jars, and possibly even still circulating, and the next person to find one could be you. So starting today, right now, I want you to look at every nickel you encounter, actually examine it, check the size, the weight, the color, look at both sides carefully, search for anything unusual or different, and remember that the few seconds it takes to really look at a coin could potentially change your entire life, because somewhere out there, someone is going to find the fifth 2015 D quad error, or discover a new type of error we don't even know about yet, and that person will join the ranks of those ordinary people who made extraordinary discoveries and who proved that in the world of coins, magic really can happen. If you found this video valuable, if you're now going to start examining your nickels with new eyes and heightened awareness, do me a favor and smash that like button. Subscribe to the Coin Merchant so you never miss future videos about valuable coins and how to find them. Hit the notification bell so you're alerted immediately when we post new content. And most importantly, share this video with your friends and family because you could literally change someone's life by teaching them what to look for. Imagine being the person who shares this information with someone who then goes home, checks their change jar, and discovers one of these multi-million-dollar treasures. You'd forever be part of that incredible story. Drop a comment below telling me if you're going to start searching your nickels, if you've ever found anything unusual, or if you have questions about error coins and what to look for. I read every single comment and I try to respond to as many as possible because building this community of knowledgeable treasure hunters is what this channel is all about. We're creating a network of people who understand that value hides in plain sight, who know that fortunes can be found in the most unexpected places, and who have the knowledge and awareness to recognize opportunities that others miss. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into 3 of the most valuable modern nickels in existence, for sticking with me through this entire journey, and for being part of the coin merchant community. Now get out there, start examining your coins, and who knows, maybe you'll be featured in our next video as the person who made the discovery of a lifetime. Until then, keep searching, keep learning, and remember that your next nickel could be worth $48 million.